Is it wrong to force fit prepayment meters? That's what we're asking. 0207 862 2222 is that number again to give us a call. The energy regulator Ofgem has announced that energy firms can resume force-fitting meters if consumers fall behind on their bills. Now, the controversial practice was banned almost a year ago after a report from The Times found that some debt collectors were breaking into vulnerable people's homes and acting, well, rather cavalier and insensitively. Take a look at this undercover footage from The Times.
Hello, it's British Gas or Gas Supply. We're here with a court warrant. Can you please open the door? Otherwise, there are lots of them open it for you.
It's the exciting bit. I love this bit.
Which bit?
This bit. I love this bit.
If they're just saying, "Oh, I'm a single mum and I got 3 kids," and that's not vulnerability.
Right.
It is a vulnerability, but I'm a bit old school and a bit hard nosed.
Now, that is horrible to watch. Ofgem has announced, though, new rules for meter installation. They can't be put into homes if customers are over 75, has an infant in the house, or has a specific illness. So, Ayesha, new rules in place. Should the ability for energy providers to install these meters be available?
I just think it's the force fitting which is a problem. This only happened a year ago, and I just don't have any confidence that the energy companies have somehow had a Damascene conversion. And of course, they will say that they outsource a lot of the kind of barging into people's homes to other people. You could see from the footage there are lots of contractors who don't think they're accountable. We saw the glee with which that man was like, "This is my favourite bit. I love going in and the single mum can, do one," and all that kind of thing. So I actually think not enough time has, we have just seen, we're going to be talking, I don't know if we're talking about the post office later. We've just seen a huge amount of mistrust in big institutions and big companies, big institutions, household names that we thought we had a lot of trust in, the energy companies, the post office. I just think a year after the scandal, and by the way, I think a lot of people look at Ofgem as well, which is a regulator. They've overseen prices going through the roof. They've overseen a lot of really bad practice. I just don't think people are going to have any trust in Ofgem to say, yeah, we're satisfied that 12 months on, all good, crack on. I just don't think people are going to have trust in that.
What do you think, Mike?
Well, that was horrible footage. But look, the core of this story is that people are stealing electricity and gas, and that's theft. And you've got to do something to try and stop that happening.
Are they stealing, or are they just not paying on time?
No, they're stealing. Because if you take something you don't pay for it, you are stealing it. Do you remember a TV series just recently with the wonderful actress Jodie Whittaker? She was sent to jail, and when she got to jail, what were you in jail for? I stole my neighbour's lecky. And that prompted a load of commentators to point out in various publications, you don't go to jail for stealing electricity in this country. Nobody goes to jail for stealing electricity. So therefore, it's seen as a very minor offence, and therefore people are not getting cracked down upon when they're stealing electricity, and more people do it. If not everybody, if a lot of people start stealing electricity, the price goes up for everybody else. This is really... The safeguards are pretty tough now, 12 months on. The safeguards are pretty tough. This is only to stop, theft of something we all need, which is power, because people steal it.
OK, so just on that, you would think that there's kind of some rampant crime epidemic of people stealing electricity. That is absolutely not the case. Actually, what there has been a rampant amount of crime in is very posh people creaming it off the taxpayer with PPE contracts. We've just seen Michelle Moan and others. So, Mike talks about people should get thrown in the clink for doing that. Well, we're happy to turn a blind eye when it's actually white-collar crime.
I'm not sure we're turning a blind eye on that.
We have been turning, but nothing is happening. We're going to talk about the post office soon. You get people who get away with doing absolutely terrible things, there's no repercussions. This is often because people are in extreme poverty. By the way, these prepayment meters as well, the tariff is actually higher.
I think they've sorted that out now. It's not allowed to be.
But remember, Ofgem oversaw that for a long time. That's only changed very, very recently. And the other thing is, fine if you want to be all tough love and throw people in the clink. There's not enough spaces in prison for people for not paying their electricity.
The very point I've made is that people don't go to jail for stealing electricity. Now, the supply of power in this country is one of the biggest consumer products, if not the biggest. So only if it's a small percentage of people who are trying to get it for free and stealing it, they're causing a huge problem, and there's got to be a deterrent. And this is a deterrent.
So Mike has a point that there is an issue if somebody is taking energy and not paying for it, because it means that at the end of the day, everybody else is going to be paying more for them. How do you stop that? Do you just switch off your electricity?
I think you have to look... I think you have to look at what's going on here. I suspect that the very small number of people who are not paying their bills are not doing it because they're sort of crime central. They're probably doing it because they're unbelievably poor. And the prices...
They think they can get away with it.
The prices of electricity and gas have gone absolutely through the roof. And part of this as well is making sure that there is a provision for what are called the fuel poor, and that is a growing group of people.
Yeah, but they think they can get away with it. And everybody has to manage their household budget, and getting the electricity and gas in your budget, along with your food and everything else, is part of your budget. But if you think it's easy to avoid paying for your power and spend it on something else, whatever it is, that's why people do it.
Lots of people right now are absolutely struggling because the cost of... Mike, you and I are really well paid, OK? We get a lot of money for coming on. I won't divulge how much we're getting on for coming on and giving our opinions. We lead a really, really comfortable life. And we are so lucky. Thank goodness we're not in the position that a lot of other people are in. OK, well, let's go to the callers and see what our viewers think. Anne from Hertfordshire, what do you think about force-fitting these prepayment meters?
Well, my daughter's got one. She's got a pound coin meter. And she struggles getting the pound coins from the bank or a shop or anywhere. And if she can she phones us and says, "You've got any pound coins, Mum?" We'll go around there and give them to her. But people shouldn't have to be living like that. She's working. She's earning a wage. She works full time. And she should be able to go home in the evening and keep warm in her flat when she's done a 8-9 hour day.
And so I'm presuming
it's the poor people that are suffering.
I'm presuming that this meter wasn't force-fitted while she was in the house initially.
It was fitted while she was at work. They broke in.
Right, and why did they break in to force-fit this meter? Had she not been paying?
She had a little bit of debt to pay off. I wish she'd told me because I'd have paid it off for her.
OK.
She had a little bit of debt, and that was the way of clearing the debt because they run the meter fast.
And how long was... Well, that might be why they were paying a bigger tariff then. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But how long had she not been paying the meter, and how long ago was this force-fitted?
About 3 years ago.
About 3 years ago, and how long had she not been paying her bill for?
Oh, she'd been paying it, but she just had a little bit of debt that she couldn't catch up with because she lost a job.
And had she not
in between jobs?
Had she not been in negotiation?
Found this job she's got now, which she gets really good money for.
And so she's able to
clearing her debt.
She's able to,
but they still won't take the meter up and put a normal meter in. Now the debt's cleared.
It is part of the difficulty, isn't it, Mike, that once you have this installed, it's very difficult to get rid of, and then it's very difficult for a next tenant.
But the problem is then they look at your payment history, don't they? And of course they weigh it up like any business. Is there a risk that this might recur? I wonder if Anne can tell us how many warnings her daughter got about the fact that there was going to be a meter installed, because now I think the new rules are you have to issue at least 10 warnings.
Well, I think it's actually
one warning.
More than that, and it's 6 months of not paying your bills.
Yeah.
Are you happy with the rules that Ofgem have put in place at all, Anne? I mean, they won't be able to install...
No, she's a young girl. She's 27. She shouldn't have to have these worries. She should be out in the evening with her boyfriend and enjoying her life. She shouldn't have to be worried at 27 how she's going to pay her bills.
What's the alternative, Anne, then? What is the alternative?
Make the bills cheaper. She's working. She's earning good money.
I think Anne,
over £1,000 a month.
I think Anne makes a really, really good point, right?
So much of that goes into her gas bill.
We're all really comfortably well off on this panel, and even the last couple of days when the really cold snap has come in, I've had my heating on. I have watched that smart meter, and it is terrifying. You know, you're like, oh my goodness me, like what, £10 has suddenly gone? And if we're feeling that as people who are really, really well-off people, you can't imagine, in this weather, these aren't people being lazy, profligate. They're just trying to keep warm.
I totally agree, but Ayesha, in the real world, you have to pay your bills and you have to manage whatever money you've got. I know people are poorer than us, and I feel sorry for them, but they can't just suddenly say, well, I'm poor, so I'm not paying for the electricity or the gas.
When the bills are so high for people...
But they are for everybody.
Yeah, they are for everybody, and that means if they're high for everybody, it's going to be really difficult for a lot of people who are not well off at the moment.
And the government have helped to try and subsidise those bills.
But those bills, that subsidy has stopped. What the energy companies should be doing, and let's not get the energy companies are raking it in, right? The executives at the top of the energy company are getting bumper bonuses, bumper pay packets. They should be doing more to work with people like Anne's daughter and others to help them.
And they are claiming that they are, and often...
Oh, they're claiming.
Well, they are claiming that they are, but if Anne is to believe, Mike, that there seemed to be very little warning before her daughter was force-fitted with one of these prepayment meters. Shouldn't there be more discussion with an individual before one of these things is put in place?
Look, it's a huge issue, isn't it? If you're going to start looking at every situation where somebody hasn't paid, how much time do you have to spend on getting to the root cause of it? Basically, if the bill isn't paid, you know now, it's very clear, you may have your supply cut off. So to try and stop the supply being cut off, we introduce a system where you pay in advance for it and then you can't take it and steal it. I think that's a very fair system.
I'm very surprised that it's done on a pound coin basis. I would have thought there would have been some sort of modern...
I used to do that when I was a student.
Yeah, more modern technology. It was the exact same thing. It wasn't even a pound coin in Glasgow.
It
was like a card.
Yeah, when I was at university.
You had to go to the local convenience store to get it.
Exactly. It's not exactly a very mod. But what I don't understand is why is there not a situation where if people are having trouble paying their bills, instead of sending them a threatening letter saying we're going to literally kick down your door and while you're out at work, why don't they say, why don't you get... It's a bit like with mortgages, right? If you're suffering with your mortgage, what the lenders say to you is, get in contact with us, we'll try and negotiate a payment plan.
Honestly.
Well, quite a lot. It doesn't sound... That has not happened with a lot of people, Mike.
Well, I have a lot of contact from the gas companies who keep asking me to send them a reading, which I've never done in my life. I don't know why they're asking now. But they are consistently in touch with me, in contact with me. And they do it, I think, for people who are having trouble paying their bills.
OK, back to calls. Mandy, thank you very much, Anne, for your call. Mandy from Hampshire, what's your thoughts on this? Prepayment meters, are they fair?
I think that if you need to have a prepayment meter, that's fine. But force-fitting them isn't. I'm a vulnerable person with mobility issues. I really feel the cold. I owe my energy company money, but I did not steal it. And that really, really upsets me that anybody can say that I stole from my energy company and paid and used it to pay something else.
Mike, you did say they're stealing. So what are you going to say to Mandy?
It's so upsetting.
Yeah,
people like me that have... Can you just before you answer, if you can? Just imagine somebody with extreme anxiety that as soon as the door goes, they go into flight mode. If somebody forced my door down to fit a prepayment meter, I wouldn't want to live in my flat anymore.
Yeah.
How's that fair?
I totally agree, and that's why the rules have been tightened up to make sure this doesn't happen. But Mandy, how did you get into the position where they think you hadn't paid for your power?
Because, although you're not going to believe this, because it was a long time ago, when we had a very, very cold winter in 2018, I got into trouble. I have been forever trying to catch up.
Right.
Once you've got a three-figure debt with your energy company, it's hard to catch up.
Yeah,
I had a perfectly good payment plan with SSE, who then put me on to OVO, who aren't quite as understanding, and it's just not... I've not got on top of it. If I had
but it started with a debt. That's what I'm saying,
Yes.
Mandy. I'm afraid you're still...
But Mandy's being very honest about that, to the point where she's calling up a TV show and talking about it. So obviously you're happy to have communication about it, Mandy. Have you had communication with your supplier, and have you set up some sort of repayment plan that is manageable for you?
I recently set up a repayment plan with them. It took me about 4 attempts to ring them, because although I'm speaking to you, even that makes me anxious. The communication from them telling me that anything, no. They have never phoned me up about it. The only thing they do is contact me about smart meters.
Okay.
And it's just, yes, I had a debt. The gentleman's right. But I had a debt because it was extremely cold.
Okay.
I live on benefits.
I understand.
And
listen, it can happen to anybody. These things do happen.
Of course.
I should just mention that we don't have a right of reply from your energy supplier, so we are only hearing one side of the story. But Mandy, I don't think you need to worry. As far as Ofgem is concerned, nobody will be able to break in your home and force fit a meter if you have vulnerabilities, as you say you do. But thank you for your call. Just want to move on and get one other quick call in. Kath from Lancashire. What's your views on prepayment meters? Is it really unfair?
Absolutely, and it doesn't mention that disabled people are discounted from this.
Yeah. Sorry, I think we did earlier on, but but that's fine, isn't it? I mean, if you have a child under the age of 2, if you're over 75, if you have specific illnesses or vulnerabilities, you will be excluded from having these prepayment meters force fitted in your home. So, if you're not in that category, presumably Ofgem deem you able to pay your bills.
You've disappeared.
Sorry. So what part of it do you think is unfair?
Well, it happened to me about 20 years ago. I'd had a tenant in my property and they weren't paying the rent, so I moved back in the house. I'd also got a decorator in at the time, so the front door was open. I think I'd gone to the shop. And when I came back, they'd been in and fitted a prepayment meter in.
That's very annoying for a landlord. And did you call the energy company and explain the situation?
I honestly can't remember because it was about 20 years ago now, but I was fuming because, A, I'm disabled. I couldn't always get to the shop.
Also, can I just make a point? How distressing must it be? Like, let's say you go out and you come back and someone has actually broken into your house. And Mike called these people like thieves for stealing it. A lot of people are just really desperately poor. The cost has gone up. And to feel like your home is going to get broke. Also, what do? They smash down the door? Do you have to get a locksmith in afterwards to do that? I mean, there's lots of practical things. And also, in terms of calling up the company, do you know, I mean, we all know how bad customer service is. If you are actually trying to get through to any, I mean, they're very quick to sell you things, but you try and get through in a customer service line, you're on hold for like 2-3 hours sometimes.
I think you try to justify theft too easily.
I mean,
some people are in terrible distress, but, you know, you can't have that as a baseline.
I think there's something called compassion.
We have to wrap this up. Nice point to end on, a bit of compassion. Kathy, thank you very much for your story there.